step or we will use force. And you get down and you're like, got your hands and your feet on the ground moving like that. And I don't know if comments are just disabled for everyone, or I know I can't comment on that video, but I'm just saying, don't ever try that in real life. They will probably shoot you if you crawl to them. If they tell you don't take another step or we use force, and you get down and you crawl toward them like that, or they're gonna count that as taking steps. And then I was looking at the definition of propaganda, and everyone doesn't have the same definition. Some of the definitions of propaganda are especially misleading or false information is included in the definition, but mostly it's spreading biased or a one-sided idea to try to convince people. You know, you're trying to spread an idea. If you're spreading propaganda, one of the definitions says spreading biased information, one sided, especially to mislead. But in most definitions of propaganda, it doesn't have to be to mislead. Propaganda can be false or it can be true. Propaganda can be true, but it's biased and one sided and everything. And so I have used, I have said before, on Instagram and on Facebook, I have said before that, you know, I was thinking about like propagating my ideas, you know, spreading propaganda, but I don't mean in the misleading. Nobody pays me to spread any type of information. My channel is not monetized. I have no sponsors. I don't take money from any lobby groups. I don't, you know, I work at All Pro, Seamless Gutters and more, mostly putting up roll up doors, garage doors, and insulating houses and removing insulation and putting up insulation. That's how I get my money. Nobody pays me any money to do anything. Nobody gives me any donations. Nobody's paying me to spread this idea or that idea. It's just my own personal opinions. And hello, Zion. Zion, that holy mountain. Zion is also like another name for Jerusalem. A lot of times in the Bible, Zion and Jerusalem are used interchangeably. Zion being the mountain that Jerusalem is on the slope of. Call you Zigzon and Hunzer Lizardo. I'm probably saying the name wrong, but hello to both of y'all. Hello to everybody. I just saw Ravenheart, one of his videos where he's pretending like the police are saying, don't take another step. And he gets down and I guess walks like a squirrel or so. I don't know what. And if the police tell you not to take another step, don't take another step. Some of them are trigger happy with the taser and some of them are trigger happy with the gun. And there's mostly, they don't want to get hurt. You know, they'd rather shoot your dog and shoot you than they get a paper cut. So just don't ever try that. If they tell you to stop, just stop. just they're scared. They're on edge. A lot of them got post-traumatic stress disorder and shouldn't even still be in the field. Don't be doing all that. It was kind of funny though. It was a funny video, but know that they're not gonna think that that's some sort of technicality that you can crawl to them but not walk to them. If they say don't take another step, don't take another step. Don't get down there like you're John Jones or something coming at them. John Jones did a lot of cheating. He did a lot of, I'm gonna poke you in the eye. You better back up or I'll poke you in the eye. Which even without that, John Jones would kick most people's ass. No. What do you mean no? LLS game show. JG says hey too, or hello. Oh, Zion said yes, and then they said no. 67. What is this 67? Is it like there is no real meaning of 67? Some people say it's because this street or this guy who said it or this, but it still doesn't make any sense to apply it to other things. I think it's like one of them jokes where people pretend that they know what it means, but it doesn't mean anything. I know it's a meme, but like, what is the point of the meme? It's just like, let's say 67 because everybody's saying 67. Zigzon. What does Zigzon mean? Zigzon. I don't know if I'm saying it right because I can't hear y'all. And I'm trying to see what this is over here. I don't know what it is. The dog got to ripping at the cardboard that my greenhouse come in the package. And I caught him before he destroyed the greenhouse. He ain't gotten through all the cardboard yet. Toshi says 6'7". What's that? There's that guy. I don't know his name. He's like he raps, but it's just like slop. It's just like he had two numbers tattooed on his face. I don't think it was 6'7". It might have been 6'9" or something. Gosh, 41. 41. Yeah, let's make a new meme. Now 41's a meme. Just spam 41. I'm 38. There was a woman. See, I don't believe that women should be soldiers because I think it kind of defeats the purpose. Like, if you're trying to protect women and children, why would you put women and children on the battlefield? It's like you're making it easier for the enemy. It's like, here, shoot our wombs. Decimate our ability to reproduce. To me, it just seems like really dumb, to put here, have an easy hostage, And so some women will get mad at me because I don't believe that women should be on the battlefield, but it's not, I care about them. I don't want them to die and get shot up. I don't want children on the battlefield either. So this woman was mad at me because I said that. And somebody was saying that it's very rare that any women are able to pass the physical fitness like on the same level, but some can. And I made the point that it destroys their fertility. It overheats their ovaries. By the time they get through it's like it super ages their ovaries and hurts their fertility. And this woman said, well, it'd be better to lose her fertility in military training than have a child like me. It'd be better that than have a child that grows up to be a man that doesn't want women shot up and dead on the battlefield. I'm such a terrible person because I don't think that women should be in combat roles. Think whatever you want. I still don't think that. I think most people for thousands of years thought the same thing that I did, and it's just like a recent insanity that people think it's a good idea to put women in combat roles, but whatever. So she calls me a boy or whatever, and I look at her Facebook profile, and she was born in 1987 just like I was. So we're both 38, and I can't help that, like, she just aged a lot faster than me. So she's looking at my Facebook profile, and if she looked really close, she'd see a few gray hair and whatever. But she's talking to me like, and I had another guy, he was like, we were talking about the 2008 housing crisis, and he told me to like, hush, grown-ups are talking. You was probably a baby in 2008. And I was like, I had a full-time job in 2008 and was a full-time student at Lanier Tech, How old are you? I bet I'm older than you. I'm 38. And he never said anything back. But he was posting anonymous, but he was reporting people. It's really crazy. He was posting anonymous, saying things to offend other people, but then when he got offended, he would report them. What kind of bullshit is that? Women belong in the Let me show you this. When I got off of work, right? I was thirsty because I'd been working in the heat. And Brittany made me this tea. She had cold tea ready for me. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think like there's a lot of things we're just pretending. Everybody knows it's bullshit, but people just pretend. They like you saw where the 70-year-olds were the 70-year-old retired soccer. Like, it's too dark out here. The dog's barking. I don't want to hear. He's wanting to. Oh, he just went outside. Oh shit! I'll go back inside. He can stay on the porch for a little bit. So I don't know if it was Olympic team of soccer or something like that. It was professional soccer players, right? And they challenged a 70-year-old retired soccer team, and they just lose to the 70-year-olds. And then there's another one where a high school boys team plays like female Olympians, and they just beat them women like really bad in the sport or whatever. And then there's this kid Neon or something. I don't know. I've seen him on there with I don't really know if he's an Arab or an Indian, or I think he's a Muslim. He's just this wimpy kid. He's not an athletic kid. His name's Neon or something like that. And he played against the professional, what is it, the WNBA, and he was beating her, and he's not even, people saw there'll be a movie where Scarlett Johansson beats up 8 men, and people think that's real, and when I went to go live with my dad when I was, I might have been 15, and my stepmom just challenged me to a wrestling match or something. And it was she thought she was going to humiliate me and beat me so easily. And I was very surprised at how weak she was. She was bigger than I was, but I was so much stronger than she was. And then she got mad. And then she wanted my dad to whip me and me be in trouble and everything. And my dad's like, this ain't appropriate. Y'all can't be wrestling or whatever. I'm not going to whip him. But what? And I was really surprised by it, because in my mind, I thought that maybe we would be equally matched, or it would be some struggle. And I was like, dang. And then when I was 12, I arm wrestled a woman and beat her. And her arm was a lot bigger than mine, but it was easy to beat her. And I think a lot of people, television, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between television and reality. And I think that television has gotten people believing all kind of nonsense. And I unplugged from television when I was 18. When I was 18, I stopped watching it. And it kept making everybody else very delusional on a lot of levels. Are you Christian? I was raised to be a Christian, and then I began to doubt it and get away from it. And then recently, I've come back to Christ. I read the words of Jesus Christ, and it really is different than any other philosopher, any other person. When you read the things Jesus has said, I think there's more authority behind it. Now, I'm not a Bible fundamentalist. I don't believe in the inerrancy of the scriptures. I don't believe that the Bible is without error, or that there is no contradictions, or that everything people said, God said, God said. And I might be wrong about that, but I don't believe everything that is in the Bible. So a lot of people they might not consider me a Christian. I don't know, but I do believe, I don't know, I struggle with, I'll be honest, I struggle with a lot of, there's a lot of things I just really can't prove. And there's a lot of things that I just have a hard time believing. And then the thing that I have the easiest believing seems to be the least believable thing. And that is that Jesus rose from the dead. And, it seems way more absurd to me than the snake talking, or the donkey talking, or Noah's Ark, or the well, or so many things. But I think he did raise from the dead. I don't think he was a normal human. I think it was like God, like you play a video game and you move the avatar around in the video game or whatever, and it was like I'll get back to what I was saying, but I'm gonna make it like an analogy. Like I was on my back porch one time at another house I had before this one, and there was this little bird, this little Carolina wren on the back porch, and it was terrified of me, and it had got in through a hole in the screen, and I was trying to open up the screen door and show it a way to get out of the room, but I couldn't help it because he was so terrified of me. I was so much bigger; it probably thought I was going to eat it, and I had to just like open up the door and leave so it could fly out. I could not really, um, I couldn't, in the form of a human, help this bird. It was so scared of me. And I think that was not able to really just talk to people. Like, I think that God kind of like put himself in the form of a human, like as a way to like talk to us. Like, that's what Jesus was. I don't think Jesus was a person like a normal person. Also, there's a lot of things that I know, and then there's things that I believe where I just don't really. I have degrees of belief. Like there's some things that I believe very strongly, very certainly. And then there's other things I don't believe so strongly. It's just I have to work off of guesses sometimes because I can't know everything. I haven't died before. I don't have time to study everything and know everything. So I have to work off of assumptions sometimes. And I think it's very odd that like so many people would be tortured. Like you think of the 12 disciples of Jesus, some of them were killed in India, some of them were killed in Turkey, some of them were killed in like they're all spread out where they died. And they were being tortured and killed because they said this man rose from the dead. And any one of them could have saved their life and said, "Oh, we made it up. It was a lie." And I just find it hard to believe that all these men, 10 of the 12, that, would be tortured and all stick with the same story, even when they were not around the other, if they were conspirators. But I'm also aware of humans, like the ability of humans to follow cults, the ability of people to believe things that are not rational, the ability, like there's a lot of, new religions happen all the time. But Christianity kind of exploded onto the scene with the most unbelievable claim that this man was crucified and come back alive. And then you had all these other people being tortured to death because they refused to change their story. They were just like, "We saw him come back to life. He come back to life." And they're like, "Well, you take that back or we're going to torture you to death." And they're like, "Well, you'll have to torture me to death. I mean, that's what happened." And so it's like, the things that I'm really certain about, I'm way more quicker to try to convert people to believe. But the things that I'm not so certain about, I'm not so quick to want to convert people because I don't really know myself. And so, I'm not really worried about I'm not really ashamed of the label, I don't guess. Like, you could call me a Christian. I think a lot of other Christians would not call me a Christian. Some would, some wouldn't. Um, like, I have problems with Abraham. I got all kind of contentions, but I don't find anything wrong with Jesus Christ. Like, I've read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I don't find anything wrong with him. I don't find anything. I don't have any problem with Jesus Christ. And I do believe that he is the Word of God made into flesh, and I do believe that he come back from the dead. And I don't know that I can really justify the belief, but I do believe it. It's almost, I guess, eventually it's just a decision. You kind of just have to decide to believe it. And I mean, I don't know. You can call me whatever. A lot of people will say, "Well, they'll say you're dumb for believing it." And sometimes the pride gets in the way where it's hard to believe these things. But I don't know. It could be because of the culture. It could be because I don't know why. It feels true. I don't know. I guess I should have just said yes. The simple yeah, yeah, I'll say that. I'll say I am. Um the creator. But I will say this, I think that a lot of times people say God said stuff to add authority to their own desires. Like I think most everybody that's ever come to me and said, God told me to tell you this, or God said, I think they just worked it up in their imagination. And I also think the same thing for like when you read Exodus, um, where they say that God freed them from slavery to go genocide seven other nations. They go take slaves. I don't believe God told them to do that. I know that puts like I think that they just wanted to do that, and then they used God to try to justify it. They said, "Well, God told us to do this. God said we're the most special people." I think it was kind of their own narcissism. And then I think that Jesus was a more accurate representation of what God actually wanted and what God actually said. And that there was a lot of people claiming to be representatives of God, and they were not. They were deceivers, liars, charlatans. But I think Jesus was legit. I think Jesus was different, and I don't think there's been another comparable person before or after him. And I think I don't put Moses on the same level either. I'm even suspicious of Moses. Um, I don't know. Have you ever read the Gospels? Have you ever read like all the things that Jesus says? You just kind of feel different. I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just say just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Look at the context like of what people are saying to Jesus and what he says back. Jesus is not like the normal person. He's not like everybody else. And I guess like someone could say, well, you could always write a character to be better than other people. But then I would say I don't know that people would write this character. Like I mean I don't I think I mean we split time based on this man's life. We've got now they say before common era, but it was before Christ and in the year of our Lord. It's like you changed the world more than anyone else ever has. Was Jesus a zombie in that moment? I would say technically yes. I had some people get mad at me for that. I mean, what's the definition of zombie? Like we have all these Semitic arguments, like language arguments, like people. One person has a different definition in their head for propaganda than another person. So what's a zombie is someone that die. Like what is a zombie? A zombie is somebody that dies and comes back from the dead. Like is like the archetypical monster zombie like in movies. Was Jesus like that? No. But what and also the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin to me, that's I think there's a lot of people that come with a bias of not wanting to believe the Shroud of Turin, but the Shroud of Turin is something that I don't know. That might be proof right there. That might be some evidence of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It looks like the image was just sort of I don't know. Look about the Gospels and just read the actual words. Because a lot of people never even take the time to read what Jesus actually said. They hear the story from other people or movies or whatever, but just like read what Jesus actually said, all of the words that what he said, and I don't know. It's just like I don't think you can read that and be unchanged. And there's a verse in the Bible in the New Testament. I forget where it's at, but it says, "Draw near to God, and He'll draw near to you." And I think a lot of people they don't draw near to God. They run away from God. They want to hide from God existing, and then they say, "Well, I don't see no proof of God." But I think that if you'll accept that challenge and you will seek after God, it'll be easier to find Him. Is what I think. But Also, I would still say always think things for yourself, always test things, always question things, always look into things. Don't ever just blindly follow after anyone, me included. Um, are you Grizzly Adams? Um, I've never shot a bear. I don't really remember the movie Grizzly Adams too well. I saw it when I was a young child. I am Paul Browning, the son of Jeffrey, the son of William, the son of Thomas, the son of John Green Browning. Mexican man. No, I'm not. I'm not. Oh, you're. Are you saying you're a Mexican man? Or are you saying am I a Mexican man or a China? Um, on both sides of my family, I have Scots Irish, and on both sides of my family, I have Native American. But I'm not a Mexican. But that's kind of what a Mexican is. You know, a Mexican is a indigenous people crossed with Spanish Europeans, and you know, a lot of the Visigoths, the Germanic people, came down into Spain. And then you have a Germanic people that went into, which I mean, the Celtic people aren't really. Anyway, you know, it's white people mixed with Indians either way, Mexican or what I am. But it's not like a lot. It's like my mama, her mama, daddy's mama was a Native American. And then I don't know how much my Granny Browning claimed to be part Apache. And I used to always be like, bullshit, we live in Georgia in the East. Those are West Indians. But then I saw Geronimo and I saw Apache, pictures of Apaches, and I was like, dang, they do look Apache. They got the wider, rounder face, the high cheekbones, the nose is the same, the a lot's the same. So maybe she's telling the truth. I don't know. I just ain't never trusted any of those companies to give me my DNA. You know, I was like, yeah, I give you my DNA, and years down the road, you're gonna sell my DNA. You're gonna make viruses to specifically target me, or you're gonna fucking patent my genes, or you're gonna like clone me, or I don't know what. I just never trusted. I was always curious to do a DNA test, but I never trusted anybody with my DNA to do any of the 23andMe and the whatever. And then people would say that I'm paranoid and I'm crazy to not trust them with my DNA. And then years down the road, there was some lawsuits and stuff because they had sold people's data and DNA to third parties. So I was right to not trust them. Do you think McDonald's ice cream machine has a darker back? Okay, I know the story about the McDonald's ice cream machine, right? McDonald's is fucked because they got into this contract with, I don't remember the name of the ice cream company, but basically, when the ice cream company sold all these ice cream machines to McDonald's, part of the contract was that McDonald's cannot use their own repairmen. They have to use the repairmen of that company of ice cream machine. But the ice cream machines have a programmed glitch in them to make them stop working for no reason, to need maintenance, to need their workers to come in and mash a button, do some easy thing to get them working again, right? And so there's two different things going on. One of the things going on is they wanted to keep being able to make money off these machines after they sold them, so they got McDonald's tricked into this contract where now McDonald's is having to always call these people because the machines are made to glitch out, and they're going to have to wait till they can get out of this contract before they can just get an ice cream machine that doesn't break itself on purpose all the time. And then there's another thing that's happening. Sometimes the workers don't feel like cleaning out the machine. Sometimes they just don't feel like it. So sometimes they say it's broke when it ain't, but it does break a lot when it's not supposed to. Because it's a digital glitch built into the machine on purpose to just siphon money off of McDonald's to the ice cream machine thing. So that's the darker backstory behind the McDonald's ice cream machine. There's probably an even darker story behind McDonald's than that, though. You know, Bill Gates is buying a lot of shares of McDonald's and talking about he's going to improve the Big Mac, so I wouldn't eat it. Well, see, you say that you something tells you that we're not supposed to worship a man. I would agree with you, but I would say I don't think Jesus was a man. I think that like words have vibrations that can. A lot of the universe is based on vibrations. So you read the Bible and it starts off, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So you see that God keeps saying things, and then by His words, He builds the universe. And then you get to John chapter 1, and it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was with God in the beginning. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among men." And, so how you have in a word is a sound or combination of sounds used to convey a meaning in a given population. You have a tone. Basically, you have emotions and you have thoughts communicated in words. So there's this sort of idea that there is God as the Father is sort of like this mind of God, this soul of God, where you have the will and the mind and the emotions. But then God is a spirit. He doesn't have a body like this, right? So his agency, how he does things, is with his very words. He says, "Let there be light," and there's light. "Let there be trees," and there's trees. The words embody the thoughts and the emotions, right? So the idea is that Jesus is not just some man that's being worshipped. He is the Son of God in the sense that he is God's words. He's the words of God. So the words of God are being are manifested into a form that's like a human being, like kind of what I was saying about like an avatar in a video game, right? Like God is beyond just this manifestation of his words into the form of Jesus Christ, but this is being used as a way to communicate and talk to people in a way where people can see God, talk to him, God can, and without there being any confusion, without God relying on lying humans to tell other lying humans what God said. He just sort of comes himself in the form of his words being flesh. So I'm not saying worship a person or a human being. I'm saying, it says in John, he was with God in the beginning. And then, like, it says that Mary she doesn't become impregnated by sex the normal kind of way. It's a virgin birth. He's conceived by the Spirit of God. So through the power of the Spirit of God, through God's Spirit, he takes his words and makes them into a physical being in Mary. And so it's a whole different. It's not like worshiping a human being. He existed before there were human beings. I mean, Adam is modeled after Jesus. He's made in the image of Jesus. God has already took his words. He's put them in the form of a man. He shapes this clay into Adam. And there's the I love the creator, but I'm not sure about this dude Jesus. Something tells me we're not supposed to. I already read that. I'm Navajo, full-blooded, New Mexico, checking in. I knew, man, I can't. When I was in Dawsonville, I met a man who was half Navajo and half Inuit, which is like Eskimo. So it's kind of weird. Like I don't know how. I don't know how that happened. I mean, it happens all over the world. People move around, but he was half Navajo and half Inuit. And I thought, dang, one of them is from like the desert and one of them's from the snow. And he was a pretty cool dude. And he married a white woman in Dawsonville, and all of their children got free college and free school, all kind of benefits from being able to prove that they were half Native American. Tyrone, I'm in New Mexico too. Yeah, Albuquerque, Santa Fe. I lived in the closest I ever got out that way west was San Antonio, Texas. Oh, that is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, the Korean War was rough. I had two great grandfathers in the Korean War and a great uncle in the Korean War, and I've heard a lot. Like, so I told you about my mama's daddy's mama being a Native American Indian. Well, my mama's daddy, he's half Native American, and he was in the Korean War too, and he had a twin, the Alvin and Albert Souls, and they were combat medics in the Korean War. And he didn't really talk about the Korean War a lot, but he talked about it some. And there was a lot of in the Korean War. There were a lot of babies and children rigged with explosives, to where soldiers would feel bad for them. Like, there's a crying baby in a basket, you pick it up, it blows up, or they got explosives in their boots. And also, they'd have children throwing grenades at them, and there's a my great uncle was taken prisoner of war. They would torture him. They had these caves down by the, like, where rivers had like dug down into the ground, and there's banks on the side, and they'd have tunnels in there, and you did not want to go into them tunnels. And that's cool. And they're very protective of their cows. And a lot of people probably misunderstood this. Probably they were poor and they needed their cows for survival, but it was common for them to, put their kids and everything in front of the cows to try to protect the cows. And they kind of interpreted, some of the soldiers, like they worshiped the cows, but I don't think that's what it was. I think they were good as dead if the cow died, and they, as bad as it is, felt like they could have more children, but they were just ruined if the cow died. But I had my Uncle Pal, my great Uncle Pal, my daddy's brother's wife's husband. He was also in the Korean War. And my great granddaddy Souls and my great granddaddy Purvis, they were all in the Korean War. But when he was in the Korean War, he saw something really strange. And the Koreans come and took his camera away from him, the South Koreans. But he claimed to have seen this. They had this. He's dead now. I wish he was still alive, where I could ask him more about it. But he was telling me that there was this man that, like, his feet looked like a cow and his hands looked like he was like, he said he saw a half man, half cow type thing that the Koreans had. And my uncle was like, he's out of his head, he's crazy or whatever. But now they're coming out with these chimeras, like these, where, like, England's made these half human, half cow, half pig, half human, like all these GMO things. And now I wonder, like, man, maybe they were, like in the 40s, they had all kind of technology that was secret that seems very advanced even today. My dad was in the Air Force, and when he left, he had to go through this training to where you don't give up secrets, if you're tortured. So he had to be waterboarded and stuff like that when he went to go work in Nevada. When we were in San Antonio, Texas, he would go up there sometimes. And he was in Korea. He was stationed in South Korea. My daddy wasn't in the Korean War. But, like I say, my grandparents and uncles, So when he went to Korea, he would be at certain hills where he remembered them talking about certain battles. And, my daddy would eat all the, they had dog and no, my phone didn't die. It lost service for a second. He said the trees were smaller over there. Just, I don't want to get off subject. I was forgetting what the main thing I was going to talk about. He said you could go into a bar and just shoot crossbows inside the bar. They had a lot of garlic in their food. He come back putting a lot more garlic on his food when he come back from Korea. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say about. Oh yeah. Well, Daddy had, because he was in the Air Force, and he worked with computers. But when he come back from Korea, sometimes he'd wake up and he'd like sleepwalk, and he would just be saying numbers and on off on, or just saying 1 3 5 2 2 1 3 5, and just acting, I don't know. And there is a story I want to tell, but I think it'd be kind of dumb for me to tell. I probably shouldn't, especially online for everybody to hear. That might not be safe for me. But anyway, he, like certain government agencies' membership list is classified. And there's a lot of people that work with certain organizations, but they might not be a member of that organization. Okay? And so before he can get out of the Air Force, he's got to swear that he won't never give up any government secrets and all this kind of stuff. And so I'll say this. When Area 51 is disclosed to the public, it won't be a real disclosure. It'll be something else. It won't have, no, it won't be. No, I don't think so. But so anyway, I would always be curious. I'm like, okay, you got these secret, like, tell me, can you tell me a little secret? Can you tell me something, And he would always say, well, it'd be, if what I know is secrets, it would be embarrassing if that's all we know. And he would always come up with some bullshit or pretend like he didn't know anything. And I'd pester him a lot about it. I wanted to know something, some little something. And he told me, I don't know. I mean, like he swore, he did. He said one day, he said, imagine, what the heck are they doing out there? Drag racing? He said, imagine like Star Wars type technology. And then imagine like 50 years past that. He said, that's what we got. We got, and like when they shoot down them stealth bombers, those aren't the real ones. Those ones with the balsa wood. Like a few nations, I don't know. I think Turkey shot one down one time. Russia shot one down. China shot one down. They send them over there to get shot down so that it gets them working in the wrong direction. Those aren't the real Black Hawks. The real ones are flexible and have AI on board and can detect small changes in wind and flex and bend and like rubbery, like those are not the real ones. Have you ever heard of the secret history of Procopius about Justinian and Theodora? Because see, there's the official state history. Procopius is the historian of the Emperor Justinian. And so he writes the history that, that basically makes Justinian look good. But then he writes another history, a secret history, that if it was to be found out, he would have been tortured to death and killed. He took a big risk to write the secret history of Procopius. And there's things in that secret history that is why the real Area 51 will not be disclosed. Now, I will say this. My daddy did not tell me all these secrets and shit like that, okay? He didn't. He just, like, said what I told you, right? But there is if you live on base, just know your children will be experimented on. They may be given something to drink to where they won't remember what happened. They may come in and take your children's DNA, fingerprints, eye scan. They may get them to read things backwards and upside down, and I'll tell you this, right? I'm going to tell you this. And used to, I was afraid to tell anybody this. It took a long time before I tell my own mama this, before I tell, anybody this. because I thought, you know, I was scared to tell it. Now I wish, and this is why, and it don't matter if you believe me or not, right? I wish I would have kept the proof, but the reason that I didn't, the reason that I flushed it is I was afraid. I was afraid the thing would get right back into me, right? So when we were in San Antonio, we was on Lackland Air Force Base. It's an Air Force Army base. It's like a joint base. It's in San Antonio, Texas. We was in Linwood and Warner Robins, and we was in Lackland in San Antonio, Texas. And I was in the bunk bed, but my brother wasn't in the bunk bed. We were still using the bunk bed, but my other brother now there was a room for me to have my own room, and I was still on the bunk bed, but I was sleeping on the bottom. Nobody else was in the room with me. My brother, Josh and Adam, they were sharing a room in a different room. Luke was a baby. If he was even born, he might not even been born yet. I don't think he was born yet. I could do some math and figure out, but for the sake of the story, I'm just going to not worry with it. I was born anyway. And I had, I'll show you right. Where is that, right? So they was going to put it in my right knee, but it was in the left knee. It was like right where there's that little indentation right there. That's where they put it at, right? Well, I'm in my bed. It's nighttime, and I wake up, and they're like doctors are like in white lab coats in my room, and there's a military in there, like people with high rank. I don't know what their rank was. I was a kid at the time, but they had fatigues on, like camouflage, and they take like a shot or whatever, and they like put something in my knee, right? And I go to sleep. I wake up, and I wake up thinking that I've had this bad dream. Well, I skipped part of it. Okay, so I'm scared. I don't know what's going on, right? And my daddy comes in the room, and they say to him, they say his rank, his name and his rank. I don't remember. They're like, I think it might have been Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Brown. They said his name, they said his rank, and they ordered him to go back to bed. And he, just like a robot, he just went back into bed, just left me there, right? He just goes back to bed. Mama never woke up. He goes back to bed. And then I'm asleep. I pass out. I wake back up. And I'm just thinking, it's a bad dream. I go tell my parents what happened. My mama's like, that's a dream. We would have woke up. That didn't happen, But when I go to the bathroom, right there on that spot of my knee, there is like a green dot. I think it might have been like a red or purple, but it wound up turning green, right? And there was just a green dot there. And I was thinking, is it a vein come close to the surface? Like if I poke it, am I going to bleed out or whatever? And it was just there. I don't know if it was, I don't know why it was there. I don't know what they did, right? Well, the divorce of my parents happened when I think I was like 12 or 11. So then I might have been 8 or 9 or 10 when that happens, right? Well, when I get to be about 14 years old, it starts feeling like I got a piece of glass in my knee. Like when I touch it and move it around, it's uncomfortable. It feels like there's a piece of glass. But because it's a green dot, I'm just thinking it's like a vein, because that's what my mama told me when I pointed it out. Like when I said, hey, it ain't a dream. Like, look at this. She's just like, oh, that's a vein or something. So it feels like glass every time I touch it, right? Well, I'm in high school. I'm in the 11th or 12th grade. I don't remember. I know that I went halfway through the 10th grade in Wheeler County. Then I went to go live with my dad, done the other half of 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade in Dawsonville at War Hill Christian Academy as a private school. And anyway, though, I decide I'm going to figure out, I'm going to risk bleeding or whatever. I'm going to get whatever's in my knee out of my knee. And so I start cutting into my knee. And I'm bleeding in the bed, and my brother Adam comes by, and he's like, you are crazy. You're like, what are you doing? And he leaves because he just thinks, like my dad and him, they don't like the sight of blood. They freak out about it. And I'm looking for a pen so I can kind of draw what it looked like. What a paper. I won't be got myself killed, but I don't give a fuck no more. Just I do give a fuck, but I mean, at the same time, okay, I'm putting it on this paper, right? So this thing, I need that to break off. I didn't get that shorter. All right. So the way this thing looked, it wasn't a complete circle. It was sort of like almost a complete circle, kind of like a U, right? And it had these 4 bigger points. And I mean, this is not going to be exactly like it looked. And it was smaller than this, by the way. I'm just drawing a little bigger so you can see. It was like this, right? And then each of these 4 points had, I don't know how many there were. I don't know if there was 4 or 3 or I don't remember. But there was like these almost like hairs that come out of this. But they could wiggle. They could wiggle. And as you begin to pull this up out of you, these things would wiggle and pull themselves back down. I don't think it was alive, but it can move. It's like as you're trying to pull it out of you, it's like they're doing like the little hair things are like, like a flagella or whatever, And so I got it out of my knee and I flushed it down the toilet. So people were like, well, you're lying, why didn't you keep it as proof or evidence? Cause I'm thinking, what if that thing, gets back in me? It freaked me out. So if you go to, I think it's 306 West Valley, Circle West subdivision in Dawsonville, Georgia, and you go into the septic tank, I'm just saying, that's where the thing would be at because I flushed it down the toilet. And I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. And I'm not lying about it, but I also don't expect you to believe me. And I don't have the thing to show it to you because it creeped me the fuck out. Why they put it there? What's it do? I don't know. And I was scared. Like I was really scared when I took it out. Like they're going to know I took this out. Why they taking it out? Like, can they hear me? Whatever, when I took that thing out of me, right? Now I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in extraterrestrial aliens. I never believe in any of that stuff. I think it's government or whatever. But it was little. It wasn't big. It was little. It was like a UFO, like a little bitty thing. I saw it out the window, and I got scared. I didn't know what it was, but it just like disappeared. It like flew off so fast. It was like it disappeared. But I have not had I haven't had nobody come after me or, it took a while to get comfortable enough to tell anybody about it, And then I told my mama, and then some time passed. I told my best friend at the time, Daniel Horn, and some time passed. And after a while, I don't know, nothing ever happened. Nobody ever come after me. Nobody ever put another one in me. Nobody, and I don't know. You said something about Roswell. I think that with mercury, I think with using electricity and voltage, you can create lift without having to like inefficiently just try to force air up under a wing to lift something up. You can way more efficiently, way more easily use voltage and electricity to create lift. And so a lot of these things that people think are alien or whatever, it's humans. It's just, think about how many people it took to make the nuclear bomb. And the people making it didn't even know they were making it. They were just making different parts of it. It took the whole economy, like everything that's involved in the economy. It took everything that was involved in the military, everything that was involved in government. It took the power of the state of millions of people to make a nuclear bomb. And in the same way, it takes a lot of people to make some of these aircraft, some of these things. And we can in a lab, we can put together, if you put the 4 chemicals that are in DNA, I forget right off the top of my head, there's adenosine, guanine, there's a G, a C, and I don't even remember right now. The 4-letter codes of DNA. If you put them in the right combinations, they will self-assemble. Like you cannot. We're at a point to where we can create living organisms. A lot of people don't want to believe it. They're like, God would never allow that to happen. Like when they cloned the sheep, a lot of people were like, oh, God wouldn't allow that to happen. When I first started telling people about GMO seeds and plants, which they had been talking about this in the encyclopedia since the 80s, my family said I was crazy. People said they wouldn't even look at I had the paper, there's on the internet, I had the different websites that talked about it, but they wouldn't even look at them. They're like, you believe everything that's on the internet? I'm like, it's a scientific journal published by credible, like there's a lot of people saying they're doing this. And that was like in 2010. There was a lot of people that just did not believe that there were genetically modified organisms around where I lived. And now, and I was saying it's in the food, and they were like, no, it's not. Well, then they passed a law where you had to put it on the food, and then it was on the food where it would say, this is a genetically modified organisms are in this product. And then I could point it to my brother, and he never apologized. He was never like, I'm sorry, I said you was crazy. You were really informed. People don't like to believe that you know something before they know it, or you can see something they can't see. So they're just like, you're crazy. You're talking about stuff I don't understand or want to believe or have the will to believe. But there's a saying that the truth is stranger than fiction. And sometimes it is, sometimes. But I do think the Roswell incident was look, I don't know what happened exactly. I really don't know what happened exactly with all of that. I'm not in the know to know all these things, Like, I don't know the things that my dad knows. I wasn't and he don't know, but everything you got to understand that the military is very compartmentalized. It's on a need to know basis. And you can do very great things with this person handling this small section and this person handling this small section. And at the same time, people are given the information they need to know to do the part of the job that they do. People are also fed misinformation at the same time. During the Roswell incidents, you had a lot of government agencies going around and like the government would abduct people's cattle. The government would mutilate people's cattle. The government, before they could even really get the flying saucers going really well, they would hold them with helicopters on cables because the Nazis had already figured out how to create lift with these flying saucers, and they were reverse engineering these things. And like the Nazis had all these super weapons, but they run out of money and oil and fuel and they were on the cusp of being able to conquer the world, and they were defeated just in time. And a lot of those scientists, they went and they started working for the Soviet Union and working for the American government. And it is a crazy story. It is the craziest thing about the story is it's true, which nobody has to believe me. And really, I don't know why. I don't know the purpose. I don't know what the fuck. I wish I would have kept it to stuff, but like I was in my emotions at the time. I wasn't thinking rationally. Like I should have put it in a mason jar. It probably couldn't have got through that. I should have saved it. And I wish I would have. I wish I would have put the thing in a mason jar and kept it for study but at the time I was not thinking rationally. I was fear-based thinking. I was afraid. I was creeped out. I was scared of it getting back into me. So I wasn't really thinking I was just thinking, I'm getting this out of me. Because I didn't expect, I expected to find a piece of glass or to find, I didn't expect to find what I found. And then when I did not know what it was. And I still today searching the internet about other things that other things people find. I've still not found the same thing. Like I don't know what it was. And it's easy to be afraid of something you don't know what it is. I just knew I wanted it out of me and as far away from me as I could get it away from me. And but what I will say though is this is before 19 what we started, a lot of people started getting the internet like 1990. It come out in 1990, but a lot of people didn't have it till 1995. I need to do a timeline and figure out exactly when but what I'm saying though is this thing, that I took out of me, right, is more advanced than anything we see now. Like we don't see computer chips and little and robots and things like that are that advanced to where it almost is like I don't know what it was. I don't know what its purpose was. It could have been that, like it could have been for my own protection and I didn't know it. Like if you think about if my dad did know some secrets that were important, someone might try to kidnap his family, and it might be a way for the government to track us and find us and recover it. Like, I don't know what it was for. It could have been for a good reason, it could have been for a bad reason. I don't know. But, there's something even worse than that. There's something worse than that, like, I'm not, I'm not going to get, I'm going to stop actually. I'm going to stop. I've said enough. I'm not gonna, and I haven't just said it to a friend here or there. I've said it on live, and I'm gonna post the thing. I think I'll stop there. I think I'll talk about something else. I don't think but peace, Tyrone Wilson and Dark Element. I tell you, there was I do want to say more. I don't know. It just feels good to get it out. But there's more. There's two more big stories I could tell that are kind of similar to that one. But like I'll say this. I'm not going to say those two stories. I'm going to save it for later. And I'm also going to drop my timeline with the year so I can tell y'all the year and but I forgot the other thing. There was one small. Okay, when you go onto the base, right? Every single tree has a little metal tag with a hole in it that's nailed into the tree that says "Property of the U.S. Government." Like every tree is marked "Property of the U.S. Government," and so there are a lot of things that happen in human history that cannot be explained. And history and the media are always hijacked for political reasons. And so we don't even get the history that we get is about as accurate as the news we get. Like today's news, it's so full of lies, but that will be tomorrow's history. So like they'll say, well, people don't study history, so they repeat it. No, they study history. That's why they repeat it. It's part of and I don't mean the real history. I mean, nobody's given we're always bombarded with so much propaganda constantly. I mean, there's a lot of history that we do keep, that's verifiable. It's like we have their bones, we have the building, but a lot of times the history is retold based on the political environment and climate of the time. And if you can tell the truth of history, but leave out the context. Like if you tell what one side was doing, but don't tell what the other side was doing, you get a completely different picture than actually reality. For instance, when we're told about World War II, we're told it very one-sided out of context. But if you get the full context, it's a completely different story. So we're not told what the Bolsheviks were doing. We're just told what their enemies were doing. And it's so even if you get told the truth, it's still a lie because you get told the truth out of context. And they're not going to just give it to you. If you love the truth, you'll have more of a hunger to find and dig into it. But it's not just going to fall in your lap. It's not going to they're not just going to be like, here's all the bad stuff we did. Here's all the times we were the bad guys. You'll always be told history like whatever country you're in is always the good guy in every single conflict ever. And everybody else is always the bad guy. And nobody ever pressured someone to fire the first shot. They're the aggressor. You're never really they wouldn't get if they come out and told the truth all the time, they wouldn't get any support whatsoever. But people would rather have comfortable lies than uncomfortable truths. and people would rather just lazily accept whatever narrative is given to them than really put in the work to find the truth. And so, a lot of people, we're just trying to live day to day. We're just trying to put food on the table. So there are a lot of things that happen in human history. Okay, I already read that one. Well, I think I'm about to go because I need to spend some time with Brittany. I've been on this phone ever since I got off work. I need to go spend time with her because she make me that sweet tea. I love her. She's really a good woman. I was about demoralized. I had dealt with so many women before to where I was about to give up. I was like, all these women are bad. All these women, but they're not. But a lot of them are spoiled, and a lot of them think they're good women and are not. But I found one. There are some good women. They really are. But the odds of finding one are not as good as they used to be. So if you find one, appreciate her, and don't stay on live all day long and not spend no time with her. God bless y'all. Y'all have a good day. I'm going to go hang out with Brittany.